can have the meter, but the meter cannot connect by itself.
Has that been a challenge?
It is a challenge. As a matter of fact,
Is it the primary reason for the delay in expansion?
No. The delay has been the expansion is overall infrastructure. It's not just we have to move. For instance, we have to carry the power to your community, and we normally take it there through medium voltage power lines, transmission lines. When they get there, those medium voltage lines have to be reduced to energy that you can use in your house. So if we're taking a 22 kV transmission line, you cannot use 22 kV. That will blow everything. So that's why we put the transformers near the house, and then it reduces it to 220 volts, and that's how you can now then use it. So we cannot provide electricity for you if we don't have a transformer. So one transformer will supply a number of houses in the community. So you have to buy the transformer after you run the lines. You have to buy the transformer. You have to buy the service drop lines. There's so many expenses that go with it, okay, that we have to incur. So when people pay, say, a $22 connection fee, they say, "Oh, I'm finna paying for my."
How do you?
So that $22. Now come back. That $22 was based on the donors paying for this.
Okay.
Now we are transitioning from the donors paying for it to government LEC paying this expense. So if we want it to continue, then we all have to share the costs. We have to share the burden. If not, it's not going to be sustainable.
Is that already a decision you've reached for us to share the cost, or is a conversation that is ongoing?
It's ongoing, but I'm sure that that's where we will lead. Because if we don't go there, then you'll be waiting for a couple of years and you don't get your power. Okay.
Do you receive concerns from the public about access to the meters? Do these concerns come to you that it's difficult to access meters, even if the meters are available? There are bureaucracies. They have to go through.
Look, the hustle is on. My own people have fired so many LEC staff for selling meters to people illegally. And one of the biggest problems we work with a lot of contractors who help us build the grid. Those contractors hire their own staff to build the network. When they are done, they don't have jobs. All of them expect that LEC will hire them. But we already have close to 900 employees. We don't have the means to keep hiring everybody. So what happens? They hire themselves in the network. They start going to people's homes. Oh, I can bypass your meter. Oh, I have a meter I can sell to you. And the hustle goes on. And how do we stop that? That's a challenge.
Okay, let's conclude with you on security of your infrastructures, because you're talking about people, power theft and people stealing the meters from homes. And it is the responsibility of the owner of the meters or the user of the meters, or is LEC's responsibility to ensure that the meters are secure?
We cannot deploy security to everybody's house. You have to take care of your meter when it's there. So I also ask the community to also create community watch groups that take care of their transformers, because transformers are very expensive. If your transformer blows, you can be out of power for quite a while. There are a lot of communities experiencing that. So community ownership of the infrastructure that we invest in and put there is very important to preserving these assets. Okay. On the bigger scale, say the Mount Coffee, the Bushrod power plant, Painesville substation, that's where we have to put security. But the rest of the grid, it's not possible to put security everywhere.
So the only security measure for the meters now is that you can see that your office is just block or disconnect the meters if it is stolen.
Yes.
Okay, so gentlemen, we'll come back to Monie Captan. I'm sure we still have a couple of questions about illegal connections and all of that. But let's go to the Deputy Minister of Finance. Again, Mr. Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure of being here this morning.
Okay, so
Mr. Captain.
Morning.
So let me just keep the ball rolling.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's been long since.
Well, I've been busy working. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Austin. Good morning, Julius. Good morning, Sobo.
Thank you. Okay, so let me just first ask Mr. Minister, we want to have a fair appreciation of the economy, the state of the economy that this government inherited, and what you've done and where you've taken the economy as we speak. So first, we want you to just give us an insight of the state of the economy that you inherited.
Thank you very much. I will start the conversation by reminding us about the debate that ensued between the two presidents of Liberia. The current president of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Dr. George Weah, and that of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former president of the Republic of Liberia.
Okay.
When President Weah got inaugurated in 2018, he made a pronouncement that the economy that he has taken over was broke. He took over a broke economy. He made a public pronouncement. And I want the public to understand that for the president to have gone to make such pronouncement, he must have been adequately briefed. And he was adequately briefed. Immediately the president made that pronouncement, he received a sharp reaction from former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She did not deny or accept that the economy that has been inherited by President Weah was broke, but she then made a statement that appeared to be counterintuitive to what President Weah had stated. Her statement was exact. But how can you say you inherited a broke economy? But I left 150 million in the reserve of the central bank. And she was very clear. And it began, I think you all will remember, weeks in this country, there was claims and counter-claims, or the president said he made a broke economy, President Sirleaf said she left 150 million in the reserve. And she was specific as to where she left the money, in the reserve. And I will give you, if you give me some time, I will try my best to be as briefed and as summarized as possible to just give you a clear analysis about this. The legislature became concerned about this matter. The legislature, of course, wanted to understand as to whether the statement made and the response from the former president to establish the accuracy and the authenticity of that particular comment, because it had a serious impact on the economy of Liberia. The legislature then wrote the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Minister Twe. Minister Twe, upon receipt of the letter, I think it was en route somewhere, I don't remember, but he was traveling. He had left. Normally, when the minister leaves, he normally would designate someone or one of his deputies to make representation in his behalf. Most times, Minister of Twe always designates me in a particular environment, and by operation of our own Ministry of Finance laws, I remain the principal deputy of the minister in the absence of the minister as Minister of Finance. Minister Twe requested that I made that representation at the National Legislature. The legislature invited the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Central Bank of the Republic of Liberia governor. At that time, it was Governor Milton Weeks, who was the governor of the Central Bank. We did appear at the legislature. It was an open hearing. The media was there, and we had the conversations with the legislature. And it was clear. Mr. Minister, the president announced that he took over a broke economy. The former president announced that she left $150 million in the reserve of the central bank. Is this country broke or not? That was the direct question of the legislature. And then the central bank governor allowed us to yield to take the stand. And we took the stand. We made a pledge to the legislature. Of course, normally before you go to the legislature and take a stand, you have to take oath that whatever you say before the legislature represents the truth and nothing but the truth.
Sure.
So we made that proposition. And I want to repeat what we said, and this can be authenticated by physical and empirical evidence. And since we did this, not a single member of the Unity Party government or the former government or the President Sirleaf herself has denied this. And it's clear. So we say, yes, indeed, there is a big difference, and members of the legislature understand that there is a big difference between the central bank reserve and the current account. The public needs to understand that the reserve is not where you normally go to transact normal operational financial transactions on behalf of the government. The Central Bank Reserve is now where, in case the government collects revenue on a daily basis, is now where money goes. The Central Bank Reserve for any country is there to protect, enhance, and protect balance of payments, where the country itself becomes sovereign enough that gives the central bank that clear authority in terms of being able to manage and regulate the financial sector of the country. The Central Bank Reserve is where you go when the country is pressed, when it's in serious dire need, and there needs to be serious economic interventions. That's where you go. So, leaving $150 million into the reserve of the central bank as claimed by President Salih was even incorrect. When we took over, the reserve of the central bank was not at 150 million. It was somewhere around 133 million. And that reserve position of the central bank brought us into a situation where there became a craving knock on the doors of the government of Liberia to move into the IMF program. When we took over, the Ministry of Finance or the government of Liberia was not on the IMF program. They had ended the IMF program, and the government of Liberia was moving without a program. We were engaged by the IMF on the IMF program. But I'll get back to that IMF composition. Let's talk about the state of the economy when we took over. So my presentation to the legislature was that there is a difference, and I know members of the legislature are inclined to understand that there's a big difference between current accounts and the CBL reserve. On the current account of the government of Liberia, so we gave a picture of two different periods. We gave a picture of when President Weah took over in 2018, immediately when he took over in 2018, January 22nd, we gave the current account balance as at January 23rd. Why was that important? It was important to understand what the current account balance was immediately the president took over as president of the republic, and we also gave a picture of what the current account was when we appeared at the legislature as at that day. I think it was around February 15 or February 20, somewhere there. I don't remember the exact date, but we can verify the dates. So we give a picture. As at 23rd January 2022, the current account balance of the government of Liberia was around $6.5 million. Meaning all revenue that was collected and net expenditures as at that date was around 6.5 million United States dollars cumulatively. Meaning if you put all the Liberian dollar accounts together, you put all the United States dollar account together, you did a conversion and had a single currency of US dollar using all the conversion rate of the central bank as at that time, $6.5 million. This was 23rd February. Consolidated account of the government. Revenue and the operational account of the government of Liberia.
And the consolidated account is where government takes money from to do all it has to do, right?
That's exactly where we write checks to pay money, for any other government operations, including salaries and everything else, as a matter of fact. I want you to understand that as of 23rd January, you and I will understand that 7 days after or at least within 7 days after the government employees who have been expecting to have their salaries. Salaries obligations for the government as of 23rd January was around $24 million. And it's also need to you also need to
you had just 6.5 million.
Yeah, you had just
so you were already in deficit.
Yes, and I want to tell you how deep the deficit was.
Sorry, 23rd January 2018.
Yes. The government had to make payments of salaries. 24 million was the salary obligation at that time. Just average around there. A little more. We had an obligation, Liberia Electricity Corporation, government were indebted, the federal government led a debt of $9 million to ELBC. It was banking on our doors to pay that electricity bill. Mr. Captan was not there at the time, but of course the records will show that the government had money for ELBC and the government liquidated that debt, accumulated more debt with ELBC, and is liquidating some of this debt as we speak. Sorry. All right. So we had that obligation of $24 million in salary. We had an obligation to LEC of $9 million. The streets in Cinco, you remember sometimes, I don't know the exact date, but they had to dig up the quota in Cinco and refurbish that road, the whole Cinco belt. You remember that? The government did not take that money off its revenue account or operational account to pay. They went around to commercial banks, the LBDI, the Eco Bank, the GT Bank, the UBA, and they borrowed $65 million to do the road project that you saw.
The government then.
The government then. We had that obligation of $65 million. You do the math with 24 plus 9 plus 65. But it's also important to be fair here to say that as at 23rd January, between the 23rd and the 30th of the month, there will be revenue collections over the period.
That's around 8 days.
Yeah, around 8 days. So we had an average revenue collection. Even if you, no matter how average collection will be around 1 million per day, average. So it means that it could fall below 1 million, it could go 1.2, it could go 2. But give it to them. Give them, let's say we'll collect 2 million each day. So 8 days, that's 16M, right? 16 plus 6, that will be the available revenue as at end of the month, January, to make sure you make all these obligations. My question was to the legislature, and I appease it so that we can decide as to whether the country broke or not. I said, if all of these debtors, then look at just one major debt. One major debt obligation is the salary. When they pay work, at the end of the month, they have to take pay. If you don't pay them, you won't find anybody in the office. There will be demonstrations all over the place. If somebody working, he has to receive the money. So you say 6.5, normally we won't collect more than $8 million in revenue because our average collection is 1, right? But let's say 2 million will be collected
per day.
That's 16 million, right? Yeah. And even the 16 million, that 8 days we're looking at Saturday and Sunday there, they will not collect revenue on Saturday and Sunday, like Monday to Friday. Are we there? So we give it 16 million plus 6, that's about what? 22 or so million, right? Yeah. It cannot even be able to pay the salary of 24 million. You still have a deficit of around 2 million. Just to pay salary. I mean, $2 million in payment of salary will be in arrears as of June. I forgot to tell you that at that time, just prior to our coming in, there was an arrangement already with the central bank. They already had an arrangement. They had taken $20 million overdrive from the central bank. Overdrive means the government has a current account of an amount that is very low, and they are looking for an opportunity with the bank for the bank to be able to make resources available to them more than what they have in their current account. So 20 million overdrive was sought from the central bank. So you see, when the government of Liberia or any institution is moving towards the central bank to ask for overdrive, they are not running to current accounts. It means that reserve that the president said that was left 150 million, which in fact was 650 million, so around 135 million, the central bank have gone into it and taken 20 million from there. So it reduced that 135 by 20 to make money available to the government to be able to pay salaries. There was a perpetual and consistent and continuous digging into the reserve of the central bank to pay salaries and deal with current expenditures, thus causing our reserve to deepen and to get down more, and undermining the CBL's ability to become strong and firm enough as a central bank to maintain the reserve position, and hence the crave for the IMF program. So I asked the legislature, looking at this situation, if all of the debtors who have come, just enough for salaries to be paid at a particular point in time, the government is already in deficit. I think that we were very proper enough to have informed the President of the Republic of Liberia that the economy was broke. And the legislature asked the central bank governor, because the bank statement represented bank statements to the legislature to ascertain the conversations we had with them in terms of the assertions we made regarding the state of the economy at the time.
So how were you able to solve this problem? It's like starting on a quite terrible footing.
Yes.
So how were you able to solve it?
So it's important. That's why I gave you a clear picture. I think you all can see now that clearly there's a language in financial management, financial accounting language we call bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a situation where a country, a firm, or an individual is unable to settle his current liabilities when those liabilities become due. It's clear, we're not just settling the liabilities. You got to get it clear. When those liabilities become due. All of these debts that we're mentioning were all overdue. It was just a matter of fact that somebody will bang on the door and say, everything will come with me, our money. I don't call the thing. Of course, employees of government don't need to tell you that they need to take pay. You know that you have to pay them. 65 million, the banks were knocking on our doors. It was held. It was a serious situation. We had to retreat into the room. We had to sit into the Ministry of Finance on the 9th floor in the minister's office for hours.
Not days.
Hours and days. I mean, of course, you can accumulate days, hours into days.
When you took office, on the margin of your indebtedness as a government to those banks, when you took office, I know obviously the banks, the banking institutions informed you about how much government in the past owed them. I know your critics could say, do you have communication to justify all of what you're saying?
Oh yeah, it's a very clear thing. In fact, the banks have come up to mention clearly that the government was in. We had to have a couple of meetings, and that's why I'm telling you, I'm driving at that particular point.
Okay,
the conversation is so long, Kevin, very long. It's a long and interesting roadmap. We have to imagine our state of mind having this situation that we're seeing pictorially for the state of the economy. We are worried first about making sure we pay salaries. So we say, okay, the guys went and did an overdrive. Why don't we roll the overdrive? So first of all, we engage the central bank and ask for a rollover. That 20 million. So the government was owing the central bank 20 million plus interest on the rollover. They didn't pay. We say, gentlemen, you all roll the 20 million or you give another 20. So you ask for another 20 million. So that's $40 million to be able to settle the salaries. Revenue came in at that time between the 2023. That's how we were able to make sure we pay the salaries for, because by the time we took over in 2018 at 23rd January, it was no longer the responsibility of President Sedi or Mr. Buakai to pay the salary of civil servants. Now you've taken power. You have to take that responsibility to pay salaries. So we went, asked for a rollover, and requested for an additional facility. The central bank granted it. Where did it come from? From the reserve. So it reduced from 135 by 20 million, from that differential by another 20 million with interest repayment. It was predicted all around here. Some of our friends who were former officials of the governing Unity Party at the time had said to us, if you guys spent 5 months in power and pay salaries clearly and smoothly, and you're strong. Those are the comments they made. I took it for a joke. But then when I went and started to see the picture of what I've just explained to you, then I begin to realize, I said, but this must be a trap, or this must have been a hole. But again, it was water on the bridge. We had to face the situation, we had to engage it, and we had to deal with it.
So what were the interventions then?
So one of the first intervention was to go and do exactly what it did, to take 20 million too.
Okay.
Right? So we took 20 million and were able to settle salaries a real.
From the reserve?
From the reserve.
Okay.
We had to strategize to call for the national budget. If you remember, in our 2018, we did a recast of the budget. We recast the national budget to reflect the portion of the national budget, because don't forget, the budget of any government demonstrates your development agenda. We have to reframe the agenda into the PAPD and try to ensure that we did a recast of the budget. The smaller noise about cut in, we realized that the salaries, and in fact, interestingly, they had hired a number of people in government. And some of those who were hired in government were not even reflected in the civil service pay of the government of Liberia. So how did they do it? They had people on special allowances. They were not physically seen on the payroll of the government. So if, for instance, Samora became the Minister of Justice, for instance, and he brought in 3 or 4 staff to work directly in his office, he gave them a position of an advisor, and those advisors will make $5,000 United States dollars as special allowance, and those salaries were determined by the minister at the time, whoever that minister was. No deference to the Ministry of Finance Authority, no deference to the Civil Service Authority, and those people were paid. And they were paid on special allowance. They were paid off the consolidated account, not through donor funding, as a matter of fact. Paid off the consolidated account, but were not tracked properly at civil service because they had no personnel.
Was it the same at all levels, or if
and this was sporadic? This was a situation that was happening across ministries or agency. So in 2018, you then begin to hear the government making something called, we call it a pro cut. I know you heard that before. That time, the first pronouncement was, Mr. President, if you don't look at the salary of government employees, we will have a serious problem. The president was the first. The president announced a 25% cut in his salary. You remember that? 25% cut in his salary. And that happens, it's still happening today. Then he said, Mr. President, you cannot stop there. You have to move to look at the situation where we have to begin to look at officials of government. Maritime Boss at the time was making over $24 million Monday salary. 24,000. Sorry, 24,000. I've got to sit you. I was good. I corrected that. I will correct it very quickly. Yeah, you know, sometimes it can be, millions in my head. I'm talking millions. So it's 24,000, and I repeat, $24,000 monthly salary. Wow. Other institutions making such amount. So what the president did in terms of on the advisement of his economic team, and I told you we went to a number of strategic meetings. So these were some of the things that came out. We said we got to start with ourselves. If we have to start, and this became the introduction of this whole programmatization and all that kind of stuff. So we have to go ahead and do these things, and we have to do it ourselves. So we say, okay, but in a country here, I think the Minister of Finance works more than anybody else. Or if you look at the engagements, and with all due respect to every other sector, the engagement of the Minister of Finance is very hectic, almost doesn't sleep most of the time. So we say it is fair to align the salaries of government officials, heads of public institutions, ministers, with the salary of the Minister of Finance or any minister, because they already had a standard. All ministers made the same amount anyway. Ministers are making around $7,000. So we say, hey, across the board, state-owned enterprises, government, ministries, and agencies, no official appointed by the president must make anything more than the Minister of Finance or minister in government. Because I just said to you that the Minister of Finance, wherever he made, anybody who was appointed as the minister in government made that same money. All deputies in this country makes the same money. All assistant ministers make the same money. So we brought that cut down. That cut attributed around $9.6 million. We begin and we reflected that in go and look at the recast of the national budget.
9.6. Reserve or take home?
Savings. 9.6 savings as a result of just cutting officials.
Okay.
That official in government.
Salaries.
Meaning, so the first thing we put a cap Anybody who made more than
The finance minister.
the minister and marshalling with the minister of finance, you have to come down. If you made 8,000, you got to come down
To 7.
To 7. That means 1,000 savings there. And that 1,000 savings, don't forget now, when you get the payroll on a monthly basis, the reasonable thing to do is to annualize the payroll. And you have an understanding of the effect of the annual effect of the payroll number. So there were savings as a result of that exercise. This was February. And February, the budget year ended in June that year. So that few months period, that 5 months, we did a recast, and that recast allowed us to have a savings of around 9 million. That $9 million, some of that money, 500,000 of that money I remember was used to put into JFK, to refurbish and start the refurbishment of JFK. Some of that money was used to digitize the University of Liberia, because there became a serious concern. Every time on the university campus, there became demonstrations just because students needed to register on campus. And of course, the processes leading towards the registration of students to get admitted into the University of Liberia as students had some fraudulent frauds. And we believed within our own ingenuity that a way to have corrected that particular situation was to digitize the University of Liberia. Since the digitization of the University of Liberia, the whole noise about demonstration for students' registration at least have subsided to a greater extent. Nobody, some of you may have been products of the University of Liberia, and you know what happens on the UL campus when students are going to do registration. We made interventions into the digitization of the University of Liberia.
With some of the savings.
So I cannot tell you exactly what that amount is in terms of how much was put into the year, but I think it was around $1 million. Got in a digital company that was able to do a digitization. So right now you can get on your phone, on the portal, because I attended the University of Liberia too. I used that portal
To do your
during
registration.
my time. I was at the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law, and I registered from right on my phone. I made the payments seamlessly, to the extent that I didn't have to battle anybody. There was no fight about anything. It was just so easy. And I show similar things that people can call. This is something that is physical, and this is something that is attributed to the facts, and the facts can be verified. So we did a number of interventions. The Toad community really benefited from that party. I think you realize that the Toad community was one of the first roads that was completed, and that was completed out of this intervention. Then we begin to realize, we say, okay, going forward to look at this particular situation of just reducing the purple cut. We had a whole matrix of the purple cut. Some people had a bracket of 10%, 5%. It's a whole bracket of that, which we can explain in the effect there. But the point I'm trying to stress is that this caused a little seamless reduction in the payroll number to make the number to be affordable as a result of that. So it wasn't enough. We had to stabilize and have a consistent payroll environment so that two objectives. One, to ensure that disposable income gets to employees on time, and that they are able to utilize that disposable income in the broad spectrum of the economy, and to also ensure that the disposable income, which is an expenditure portion of the government, is extremely affordable by the government and sustainable. We went through this exercise. This exercise was a serious exercise. It was an exercise that, getting engaged into it, we realized that there would definitely have been serious pushbacks. Imagine somebody is expecting, especially from the top, you'll be surprised that even ministers in government objected to the decision that was made regarding the court. They objected to it. So we produced the payroll and said you have to do this. Send the payroll and reinstated what we are caught. And of course, when it comes, it has to be approved. We rejected it.
They use veto.
Yeah, we rejected it and we made sure that, hey, this is a policy, it has to go through. It will not go more than what it's supposed to be. And we were supported in this effect. Ministers will go, or officials of government sometimes will go and say, they're putting real pushback to this particular, what we refer to as transformation, towards our whole environment. And then the whole issue of the harmonization came. Harmonization is still ongoing. That's a matter of fact.
Is it still ongoing?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Meaning, it has to be straightened up. There are positives and there are negatives of the harmonization. In the effect thereof, it appears to be a reduction in the wage amount that goes to employee as a matter of fact, but also there are still some lapses that may exist. The GSC team conducted an audit and the government acknowledged it of the entire harmonization process. Do you know that at the Ministry of Finance, in the GSC report, was deemed as a ghost? Simply because when the GSC had gone around to do a verification of those physical employees, they needed to find them, they needed to do biometrics.
You were not there.
So me, I think Minister Flomo and another minister were all listed as ghosts. We are in the process now of we got to go to CSA to make sure that we do that fingerprint and get and when I saw it, I was like, how ghosts will be here and ghost talking? Who doesn't know in this country that I'm the Deputy Minister of Finance for Fiscal Affairs? Then I realized myself, being an auditor myself, I said, oh, I was not present, I was out. So if I was out and the GSC had marked me and enrolled me, I know I did no fingerprint, I would have questioned the credibility of the GSC report. I would say they just did it just to they compromise it in the respect thereof. They say you gotta go because you're not here. As far as we're concerned, we know you. Who told you we know you? But you're not enrolled. You don't have a fingerprint.
You didn't do it correct.
Of course.
Okay.
Now, so that
And that particular situation, and Julius, I will boil down on maybe in the next 1 minute I will round down because I can go on and explain the different interventions. So we have to instill policies on the revenue side. We have to ensure policies on the expenditure side to stream down expenditures to make sure that we have effective reporting responsibilities, ensure that we have an effective cash management system where funds, our whole budget process from appropriations to
but even and that's why you are rounding down. It's also important to note that you were rebuked by donors in a leaked letter for taking some of their money without telling that it was almost like a government stealing from the donors of their monies in the central bank.
Don't present it that way,
but that is what that's how the letter made it appear.
It was not a leaked situation, right?
The letter was leaked.
No, it was not leaked.
That you took the people's money without telling them because you were in dire straits as a government, isn't it?
Julius, it was not a leaked letter.
You publish it?
Nobody was.
Did the government publish
The government will not publish a letter. For instance, if I wrote a letter to the central bank yesterday, I'm not going to give it to the public.
How was it not a leak?
Yeah, so
I don't want you to refer to it as a leaked letter or somebody was hiding something. If we are hiding
Then necessarily
hiding, but it was a leaked letter.
he did not publish it to say, oh, I've been let the letter here.
but it is not our normal modus
That's what
operandi
makes it a leak.
to go and try to publish letters and what we refer to as fiducial communications between our.
The issue of the letter is not really important as what you did.
So the question is, I take a little back when you say leak because we're not hiding anything.
Okay, so the issue of the letter is not very important as what you did. That you at that point, because you were in dire straits, took donors' money without telling them that was stealing, isn't it?
No, don't forget. Who were the authorizations? Who were the authorities to release the $10 money?
But you have an authorizing office at the Ministry of Finance.
But who controls the authorizing office?
So far they are concerned,
What's concerned?
they don't know.
But you don't even know how it operates.
And so tell us.
That's the
How does it
problem.
work?
So we ourselves,
Contrary to what they mentioned in their communication.
we ourselves are authorized signatories to those money. You call it donor money? Those money, of course. It's a funds that has been given. So two things happens.
But that's not happening again, though. So it means there was a problem then. The fact that it's not happening now.
Yeah, we had a glitch. I want you to understand because
You also acknowledge after the journalist communication. You acknowledge.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
procedural error.
But you acknowledge.
That's correct, but it's not stealing.
But if you take on someone money, if you
The question is not, and that's why I want you to understand, it's not someone's money.
okay.
It's the government of Liberia's money. It's not someone's money.
It didn't come from the LRA.
No, but not all the monies that are put in the government revenue or put in the national budget are generated domestically from here. Don't forget.
Granted.
Mapa could buy me something if he doesn't give me the authorization and I take it behind him. That's him.
No, Julius, you cannot say this. The government of Liberia, in terms of money entrusted to it, cannot be the one stealing money from itself. We did not go, first of all, the authorities to release money, to release that fund.
Okay, you illegally took it.
Procedurally, we erred in dispersing funds.
Okay. You
Attributed to us.
before we come back to you.
Steal.
Okay, before we come back to you on the
It shows the choice of what?
Yes.
okay, well,
We are in this illegal environment. Illegal environment. No, it was not illegally to be.
The fact that you didn't follow the established.
For some to be procedurally wrong does not make it illegal.
okay, good. So let us come back to Mr. Captan. Let us come back to Mr. Captan before we come back to you.
Yeah.
We come back to you, sir. On the what are the different levels of electricity provision, all sources of electricity we have across the country, like different towns, different places? What are the sources of electricity? What is the status of different areas of energy provision?
We have something called the cross-border area. That's from Nimba to Grand Jida, River G, and Maryland County. That's electricity we get from Cote d'Ivoire. It's through a cross-border connection. There are 3 injection points. So this has nothing to do with CLSG. Okay, it's coming from across the border through injection points. Then we have Bon County, which is an extension of the Nimba grid, and that's also coming from the cross-border. Now, we have Monserrato, Monie, Cape Mount, Margibi, are all coming from our own sources locally, and with some top up sometimes from CLSG. Okay, so those are the areas that we cover.
Now there is some power plant. What is the yeah some SP2 hydroelectric power plant in Fuaman District, Lower Bon County?
No, that's a planned hydro that we're planning to build.
Okay, like by when?
So the feasibility study will be completed by the middle of next year, and it will be 150 megawatts hydro,
Wow, that's huge.
and it will cost about $550 million. We already have commitments from donors for $300 million against that project.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What is the status with Grand Bassa?
Grand Bassa.
Because you have the whole setup, the CSG setup is there, is huge.
Yeah.
And for current to come from them,
Yeah,
it's an issue.
Grand Bassa situation, Grand Bassa is not under LEC. Grand Bassa is under the Rural Renewable Electricity Agency.
And that's the same with the Lofa Hydro
Yeah.
on the RRE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the future prospects for expansion.
A point of observation, there was a point that he referenced, Mr. Wolokolie, on the aspect of a brother.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we have to go back to Mr. Wolokolie on clarify on the Saturdays. These are all observations. Is very important.
I see. Let me play. So why you talking
Because when we get back on the radio, there will be questions asked us, and we have to interpret exactly what the officials are saying.
So let me re-emphasize what was said. I think the president made the pronouncement, and as a matter of fact, when that happens, when the president goes into a particular environment and speaks, it becomes a policy. Our job is to actualize it. the hulu balloon of electricity situation in Broadway will be resolved.
Timeline.
The government has committed to the President of the Republic of Liberia, and that is perceived as an instruction to fiscal authority to ensure that that request is granted and is implemented with immediate effect.
Do you know the figure that will be involved?
We are working along with the Liberia Electricity Corporation. We have an idea already of what that situation is,
Okay.
and I thought that it's not proper to disclose now. Conversation.
But the policy statement says within days. The president said within days, starting Monday. Today is Tuesday. We're on the radio, and so
Immediately the president made a pronouncement,
Work started.
that work started.
And that's it.
It's clear.
so resources are available.
Resources,
All be mobilized.
resources will be made available, shall be made available. I want to change will to shall.
So
No,
providence can go
no,
to sleep.
no option about that.
Providence can go to sleep.
And we are showing you
Reliance of your
that
commitment.
on the reliance of the president's commitment. I want to meet that commitment higher than mine. It's not me. The president's commitment.
Okay, finally, Honorable Captain, if I don't know the tone of how much we were talking about, but if it has been instructed as a policy, how long would that take if all of what you need you get?
Well, let me say something. Even if you have all of the money you need, you can't implement in one day. It takes time, and there are phases because you actually have to build a distribution grid. You have to build it, and there might be materials that you might need that might not be available locally. So the way we implement is through phases. So we take the lowest hanging fruits, which for us, from our technical study, is to begin with Red Hill and then start moving forward. So I cannot give you all of the details, but I should also say that Brewerville, on a larger scale, will be electrified through a project under the World Bank. And that project, we are now at the stage of negotiating the contract with a contractor. And that one is very big. You're looking at 20,000 connections.
How much we have? Could we say the places were existing light poles already?
Yeah,
We have to finish.
yeah, that's what we need to finish.
Can we also prospect that you will add additional poles?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you seem to have something already the Hotel Africa side.
Yeah.
No, we're starting. We have to start doing things on our own. But I'm just trying to say that you cannot implement something even if you have the money overnight because it
sure.
takes time.
Okay, so Mr. Captain, I know you shortly you'll be leaving us. But before you go, you made reference to the issue of power theft, which you say is still effective.
Yeah, that's about. I ask the question: is it not possible to take few calls from the public just for him, so that he can answer to some concerns before
you leave here?
Yeah.
So you made reference to the issue of power theft, which says to still poses some challenges to you. Now, but we heard about your effort breaking up board, maybe broad, and all of that. What is the report so far? Did you succeed, maybe, or didn't you succeed at all?
Oh, we have succeeded because the fact that we've brought power theft down from 45% to 30% is a significant progress. In the industry, if you achieve 5% in 1 year, that's major. That's like outstanding. And we have been able to do 15 within 1 year. So it's more than outstanding.
Okay.
So, but it is sad to see people say that the reason I'm stealing power is because I don't have a meter. You meter them, and the next day they bypass the meter. So how do we explain that? Okay, so that's the frustration. I know that a lot of people don't want to be stealing electricity. They want a meter. They want to pay their fair share. And there are a lot of honest people. But then there are those also, no matter what you do on this earth, they will steal power.
Okay.
Okay, and I think those are the people that we want to target and go after. Not somebody who has been trying to get electricity and couldn't get a meter, and then you go after them and they don't have a meter. No.
So is there not an international best practice that can automatically deter a shutdown that kind of situation. I'm not into that field, so I may not know. Is it not possible internationally to get a model where if someone tries bypassing meters, the system can detect and shut them down?
But 99% of power theft is for people that don't even have a meter in their homes. They have wires buried underground and all over the place, and it's difficult.
But I remember you were working with the legislature to have some law passed that will make power theft non-payable offense and all of that and go after people. Where is that?
That law is not helping at all. We have a very strong power theft law.
Okay.
The problem is it's a second-degree felony, which means for everybody you arrest for power theft, you have to take them before a grand jury. And after the grand jury deliberates and determine whether you should go forward, then they have to set a normal jury trial. So the first person who even tried to do that way, it took us 2 years. And so if you're talking about thousands of power theft cases, it's not a practical approach.
Okay.
What I realized where we had very serious problem with communities, we basically had to disconnect the transformer and turn the entire community into darkness. And then they would come to LEC and we sit down and we negotiate and they will sign an MOU and the community starts to take responsibility for what was happening there.
Okay, so gentlemen, let's just take a few calls. I'm sure for 10 minutes before you can leave.
Over to Mr. Captan.
Yeah, Mr. Captain, please make sure you direct your calls. Talking about Mr. Captain, please direct your calls to Mr. Captain, please. We are talking about LEC yet. After which you will leave, and then we'll continue with the Minister of the Deputy Minister of Finance to talk about the economy. Let's take this call on the line quickly. This caller is there. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Quickly. You don't know where you're calling from.
My name is Diego. I'm calling from Monie. Question: how much is the government paying only their bills? How accurate is their bill being paid? Because usually the citizens were alarmed in a few years now they are not even paying their bills. What is the status of it now?
Okay. Many thanks. Many thanks. I take this caller. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, what's the phone? Good morning. I'm okay.
Zulu Whiskey.
Quickly.
2 questions for the energy man, Mr. Captain. My first question is, you have an institution that is experiencing 45% power theft. And with the instrumentality of this government brought in Mirabura, and she has reduced it to 15%. Reduce 50%, I mean, what mechanism are you putting in place for her to go more than 50%? Secondly, the excess energy exported by this government, I believe in my mind has been a normal routine, most especially rainy season, where you find our hydro is very effective. We produce more than what we use. With that great development, you have never told it Liberian people before. My question is, Mr. Captain, do you see it as a regret at the Finance Minister through his transparent mode by exposing this great achievement by saying Liberia is making significant gains internationally? Yes, now. Is Liberia being in the know of the reduction benefits?
Okay.
Or is it between you and the Liberian?
Okay, so you made your point already. Let's take this caller. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, my name is Leah Bobby Addison, one of Liberia's best security journalists. I would love to commend Uncle Captan and the rest of the team from LEC that in Maryland County, in Wolokolie, my hometown, where Wolokolie, for the first time our people have never laid a hand on electricity. They are enjoying that in Wolokolie County. For Maryland County, the Liberian have joined the Liberian counterpart now. The people, Southern Kent District and other parts in Jason are benefiting, like the Voice of Hope Radio, that is relaying this program now. They are celebrating to have LEC up there. But I have one question or comment to make. $10 used to be 36 kilometers. $10 if I'm correct. But I have observed that have dropped below 36. What is the problem? Thank you, sir.
Medicine. Let me take this caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. George. Good morning. Good morning to Mr. Captan. I'm Dave Fort, and I come up on the new children community center. Mr. Captan, I have been texting you on your messenger page. We are tired of buying level for your worker for LEC. They come on the delivery to sell light posts and wires to us. We are tired. Please, since 2019, we've been in darkness and we get FOB indicted any longer. Please, we really need current. Please, Victoria is very high in the community, and your workers are coming on a daily basis to sell food. And one last thing, yesterday your power desk team came in the community and acted like real looters. And the pro has to root on wire for pro has in the community yesterday. This is unfair to the people. We can't get meters. And we really need current, like a damn please.
Okay, you made your point already. Let's see this caller. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Silver George, and good morning to Honorable Captan.
Okay.
Okay, let me appreciate you, Honorable Captan, for a level of work done so far at the LEC. What I would like for Mr. Captan to do is recap all of the numbers. Prior to President, we are taking over all the number of people connected on the LEC and the rural community and what have been the government impact since the government took over. The number of people that have been connected and the new community that have been connected on the LEC.
Okay, many thanks. Let's take this caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Sabo. How are you doing?
I'm okay, sir. Your name?
My name is Kanye Bagbala. I'm calling you from the city of Broadville, driving to Bombing County.
Okay.
I'd like to take this opportunity to extend greetings to Honorable Captan and also to my brother in studio, Samora Wolokolie. Given that comments are being directed at Honorable Captan, mine is not a question, rather a comment of commendation for the great work he is doing at LEC. I particularly like the point when he spoke about the fact that in 2018, there were roughly about 58,000 connections. As we speak today in 2023, we are looking at upwards of 200,000 connections under LEC. That shows a growth of almost, 5,000%. I'm not good at math, but if you look at it from a mathematical standpoint, it shows that over the last 5 years, we've done dramatically.
It's around 500%.
Bringing a lot of people onto the grid. I also agree with him, and this is something that was re-echoed by the agriculture minister when we spoke to her, that we need to move away from this donor-driven subsistence approach to development and commercialize things at an affordable rate so our people can pay and so that we can keep it affordable. And my only plea to Honorable Captan is that keep doing the great work, but come out often and speak about these challenges because people don't know. And they just think that access is a question of people not wanting to give them access. But overall, I think great work from the LEC. Great work, Honorable Captain. Keep doing what you've been doing. And the Liberian people can count on your leadership and President Weah for increased access to electricity. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take 3 more calls, I'm sure. 3 more calls and we'll wrap it up. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, sir.
And we'll tell the Chris Lee, calling on Chiazaro. So the LEC boss. How far are we with the pastor in the city? Please. Yeah, thank you.
Pastor in the city. Okay, how far are we? Okay, 0776540987. We take a little more calls and we return to Mr. Monie Captan to respond, and then he leaves. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, you call now, then you want to talk again. Good morning. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Let me say good morning to you, Sabo, and that of the Mr. Captan in studio. Yeah, my question is directly to Mr. Captan. Yeah, I live at the Johnsonville Belt, and we experienced that there was an issue where the engineer from LEC saying that there's a reduction when it comes to distribution of the meters. I want to get clarity on that, meaning that if you have more than like 5 apartments, other things, reduce your meter. If you are to be entitled to 5, they'll give you like 3. So I want to know from that point.
Okay. Okay. He'll respond to that. Let's take this caller quickly. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is Joseph William, the Executive Director of the Rural and Renewable Energy Agency.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you a little update on the Buchanan situation. So about 3 weeks ago, we finalized the tender document, and that was sent to the EU. So first of all, the EU had to publish it in their various vernaculars in Europe before we can officially launch the tender in Liberia. So we are waiting on that process. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, the tender for the Buchanan and Greenville project will be launched.
Okay.
So we are in progress of doing that.
Okay. Many thanks. Many thanks. We really appreciate your input this morning on the program. Let's take this last caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Bro Saba.
Yes, good morning.
This is Abu Shari. I'm calling from Japan, Mangashi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Bro Saba, Mr. Captan. I just want to let the final for you from the yeah, now when you when you come from Freeport Way, okay, I've got the door on your left hand side, Mr. Captan, la play has been done for so many years. But now we can see from Dogbury, Mr. Captan, you finish connecting everybody, all the Duka part really. But please, we are on the right hand side, let's say for connecting Dogbury, the District 2, Mr. Captan, don't forget about us, you know, we're working on you, please, because we needed to.
Okay.
We in there, please. Yeah.
Okay, let me just take this last caller quickly. Let's squeeze this caller in. Good morning.
Good morning, Samora.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Let me say good morning to Mr. Monie. I'm Mama and to that junior and I join you from a resident into community. Well, I want to ask Mr. Captan, what is it that certain part of the community was electrified and up to 60 to 70% of that part of the community were left, just like that vulnerable. I think this is a recipe for power theft. This is the reason why we still experience power theft in the community. And instead of government losing revenue to power theft, I think we want to call on his office so that they can come into the community and make sure that the people in the community will receive current. Because if you come in a community and you electrify half part of the community, let's say 30% of that community, and you leave back of it, you expose the people to power theft. Another thing, I listened to him. He said, the first time they tried to prosecute a person that was involved into power theft, it took them 2 years. Okay, and so on that backdrop, I think I heard that it was one of their officers who got involved who was, taken to be someone involved with power theft, and they went to court. When he was, the court adjudicated him. When he was free, the court acquitted him. But out of them, LC refused to install him. LC refused to give him his benefits.
Okay.
He was acquitted by the court. What does he
Okay, you made your point already. Let's take journalist Eddie Hammer, the last. Eddie, let's hear from you.
Good morning, Soba, and good morning to the team. Let me say thanks to Mr. Captan, but we get a sitting at Central Marubi and Central Matadi. And if you check your community grading system of pavement, I still want to count number 1, number 2. We even made a presentation at the MCC at the time you were there at the community in Central Battalion. So when it comes to power tech, it's just that we have fought our own people, especially guys at the LEC, the supervisor, the manager. Even when we get problems because they say we know plenty, we want to make sure that the government get money. But when we have problems, we tend to come and say no, we will not pay. Our problem is not the point of the community, the people at the management team over there, the supervisor, the guys, they want supervising the power tech issue in this country.
Okay.
We know that for a fact for Central Maternity because we get system, we make sure that people are not on power tech because we get you, we know. We have an agreement as a community people and very broken steps to our progress in maternity.
Okay, many thanks, many thanks. Yeah, Mr. Captan, you can respond now to those concerns or questions.
A lot of questions. But the first thing I like to start with is to say to the general public that not everybody who comes and tell you they're LEC employee are LEC employees. We have a lot of imposters. We've arrested a lot of people. It's easy to get a safety vest, put a hard hat on, and go and say I'm LEC. And some of them even get the LEC badges on the safety vest. So I urge the public, when you have these people come around, please do your due diligence and ask for ID cards, verify their identity before you deal with them. Secondly, LEC does not receive money in the field. If you're buying light poles, you're buying meters, you're doing any transaction, if you are giving people money on the field, then be aware that you're engaging in an illegal transaction. And you have only yourself to blame. LEC has offices where we receive payments and we issue receipts. Okay, so if you give anybody money out there, you are encouraging them to continue to do what they are doing. There's no way a community leader can tell me I bought LiPo for LEC employee. You're not supposed to be buying LiPo for any employee of LEC. We don't sell LiPos to communities. Okay, now to go to the questions on GOL payments. GOL pays their bill, but the problem is the intervals. So sometimes the bill accumulates for a long time before their cash flow allows them to pay against it. And it's difficult because we have a cash flow demand as well. So we have to pay our employees, we have to buy fuel, we have to do everything else. So our cash flow requirements are not necessarily aligned to the Ministry of Finance cash flow requirements. So if I'm answering the question, I would say to you, yes, government pays its bill, but it's not paying it on time.
Okay.
All right. And I can understand. Budgets are budgets. Budget doesn't mean there's cash sitting there in the bank. And we all need to be cognizant of that. We are in an election year, and there are a lot of pressures on the fiscal space that's out there. So, but we all have to keep lobbying. As a matter of fact, when I'm chasing down the Minister of Finance, he's got 30 other people chasing him down.
Sure.
So you know, you can't give up. It's a continuous process. But the stronger we make LEC, and my goal is to create an LEC that's strong enough that we don't have to rely on when the government pays its bill to be able to operate. And we're achieving that slowly now. One thing I can say is that LEC salaries are current every month. And whether government pays its bill or not, we are current. So we're managing the resources, but where the government bills come in and makes it very critical is for us to invest the capex that we need to do more connections, to expand the grid. It's critical for that. Someone asked about what is the solution to bring power theft from 30% further down. We already have that solution, working on it. 98% of those that were involved in power theft did not have meters. So my 100,000 meters, when I put them in, I'm going to get that power theft rate down again. I'm not going to speculate on what percentage, but I'm sure it will be significant. The claim that we were hiding export and Minister Twe had to reveal it. Oh my God. When did we get CLSG? December. Okay, and when did the rainy season begin?
In June.
A few months ago. So what were we hiding in the past? And the fact of the matter is, it's not export in the sense, I'll try to explain that. We don't have a commercial agreement to export energy anywhere. What we are doing is net metering. That's as simple as that. When we put excess into the grid, the meter gives us a credit. When we take from the CLSG, it debits us. It's a simple process. So it's not that LEC is making all the, and secondly, we don't get paid cash. All this does is to net our bill. Okay? On River G tariff deduction, unfortunately, I cannot provide that information you're asking about, but I think it's all about understanding the tariff methodology and knowing why you're getting less for a certain amount.
Yeah, I don't think it's just River G. I think it is everywhere.
We have explained that over and over.
Okay.
Over and over, I've had my staff, my commercial director, my PR people, they've been on the radio so many times explaining this. And the methodology is based on the regulator determination of how customers are billed. There is a fixed fee that you pay every month, everyone. So if you don't charge for 3 months, that fixed fee will be billed to you whenever you recharge, and it's deducted. So go on the LEC website, go on the LEC Facebook page. It's there, and it's nothing that complicated to understand. All right. On New Jerusalem, and I can take a couple of these communities. There are several communities. Of course, everybody's going to call about their community, and it's the same scenario. Okay, is that we have to get the resources to go there and connect you, and we are doing it. You will see that some parts of the community are being connected, and it's a question of how far the resources can carry us. It would be my dream to connect everybody because that's my mandate, and it also contributes to the revenue that I earn. It would be counterintuitive to say I don't want to connect people. What is the sense of that when I can increase the revenue we earn by connecting people? On the connections, I think that question was answered by one of the callers, where we were somewhere around 54,000 customers when this government...
Pre-2018.
Yeah, and after that, today we're at 245,000. So
That's like about 500%.
yeah. Again, Double Bridge, Johnsonville, they're all the same issues. Do community, all of the same. We will get there. We're fighting for resources to connect everybody. We want all Liberians to have access to electricity. And I'm sure we will get there, and that is what we're working towards. Okay. That's the measurement of our success. Where can you take your access rate from and carry it to going forward? It's also an indicator of our performance as a corporation that is charged with providing electricity to the nation. So I'd like to end there. Thank you.
Okay. Many thanks, Mr. Captain. We really appreciate your time being there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope we can have him next week too on one of the afternoon shows. It's also okay because there's a different audience there.
Okay.
But I will get to you.
Okay.
Okay, so we continue with the Deputy Minister of Finance. Mr. Minister, you were talking about a couple of measures.
Yeah, now I think he should come to the president now. What is the status like now? Because he gave us what the situation was like. Now he should tell us what is the status of the economy. I think we just have a few minutes to run through that, sir. What is the status now? Where are we and where can we go?
I'm trying to adjust so that I can sit in an environment
that's conducive, eh?
Yeah, I see the man trying to help me to see where I can face Julius directly. Julius, before I address that issue, I will come back to that comment you made about
But it was clarified.
No, I have to go further.
He needs that from all indication there's not enough time to keep going inside.
I will not go circle back.
You already admitted that there were a procedural error.
You gotta give me a chance to say what I want to say. Please.
So go ahead, Mr. Minister.
Please.
Good.
We did not steal government donor funding.
What did you do with it?
We took monies attributed to the government of Liberia for the use what we and the donor agreed. You need to understand.
But they didn't know that.
You gotta give me a chance, let me complete, please, before you ask. This is very important, I have to clarify this. Please. These accounts are not the donors' accounts. We are government of Liberia's accounts because we are signatories to those accounts. As a matter of fact, we would not have gone into those accounts to have resources disbursed or those accounts. We have no authority or no authorization to take monies from there. That we procedurally erred in the disbursements of funds from those accounts does not attribute our actions to illegality and theft in your language.
Moving forward,
what we did is something that has been repeatedly done in the past by our predecessor.
doesn't make it right.
And so that's the point I'm coming to. Has been repeatedly.
That's what you were elected for,
Has
right?
been repeatedly done by our predecessor, and no one made comment about it. Did not even the donors make comment and complain that the previous government went there in those donors' accounts and donor funds and took money from there. They didn't complain about that.
Mr. Minister, and that's why the conversation about leaked that you are beginning because
I think maybe the donors complained, but those letters didn't come out.
Mr. Minister,
Mr. Minister, 1 minute.
there is no evidence that there were complaints from the donors.
But they complained.
In our case, there is an evidence about a complaint from us.
it means you are wrong.
No, not necessarily so.
Okay.
So progress. Mr. Minister, you really understand that these funds, I'll come today, but this is something that if it needs to
I didn't want to address
the whole day, it's not a problem, but we need to address it. So these funds that were withdrawn from the donor, from the fund, from the accounts, were replaced. It's a matter of fact.
Okay.
And because of that controversy about the procedural error that was demonstrated by us, we have been inclined to discontinue even in the future.
Okay.
It's important. So we do not steal.
Okay, sir.
We borrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Asking.
Mr. Minister, the status of our economy now.
How do we ask ourselves to borrow? We control the account. That is the reason why the government of Liberia, as a means to deal with a particular situation, through the efforts along with our development partners, the IMF, we have instituted reform to deal with that issue. Anytime we have any situation, we put in reform. We have introduced the single treasury account, treasury single account, the TSA, where all government funds will be pulled into one, and I will sit on my desk as Deputy Minister of Finance for Fiscal Affairs. The Controller General sits on his desk, the Minister of Finance sits on his desk, and see as at today what is in every government account.
Deputy Minister Samora Wolokolie, what is the current state of health of the Liberian economy?
The Liberian economy is firm, is strong. We are not at 135 million.
You will be around 4.3%.
We are not 135 million in reserve. We are around 600 million.
That's the reserve now. You have been able to carry out.
We have been able to strengthen reserve and strengthen balance of payment to around 600 million and climbing. We have moved from a negative growth.
That is, in the period of 5-6 years, you've moved it from 150 million to 600 plus million.
We moved from 135. I told you that the statement made by the former president about 150 million was inaccurate.
Okay, from 135.
Was incorrect. And we clarified that statement. We produce evidence to that statement when we appeared before the National Legislature on that fateful day in 2018.
Okay.
We clarified that before members of the legislature, which is the representative of you and myself.
So the currency of the economy, we have to include, for example, the payment of salaries, settlement of domestic debts, and I like to bring in this
jobs,
because I remember the legislature called you in on multiple occasions to talk about domestic debts, and they wanted an audit of the process before authorizing payment. How far are we with that? Was the audit conducted? Is the legislature pleased now? Have you started paying domestic debts?
We got to get the perspective right. The legislature was not the one who called for the audit of the domestic debt. We informed the legislature that to clarify ourselves and to ensure the accuracy of the debt number, because the whole debt situation was a crisis point, especially for domestic debt. We witnessed a repetition of presentation of domestic debts payments. Somebody bringing a debt from 1979 for a rent of a building that is on McDonald Street that government occupied. It is possible that our amount in 1975 will pay in 1980 or will pay somewhere along the line in the 80s or the 90s.
There's no record to that effect.
There's no record to the effect. So you see a multiplicity of presentation of debt instruments when somebody, and the controversy is that somebody somewhere in the ministry, or somebody who has left and no longer in the ministry, said that thing that you're doing, somebody telling you pay a long time ago. But the man is making a claim that he himself, who is saying that thing was paid a long time ago, he himself cannot present any evidence, to justify the actualization of such payments. It became a controversy. There were repeated situations of people owing the government of Liberia. Somebody even claimed a debt payment that the government is obligated to in the heat of the 1990 war. When they were shooting guns around here, I don't know who were renting places, I don't understand. And even the law itself gave, the whole issue of force majeure, where they become natural disaster or something that uncontrollable. People have the situation where, you have to settle the obligations. You have to settle.
Yes, listing.
Sorry?
I know that the call for the listing of
So,
all of the places.
So I will address that issue just together.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify that Austin, the request or the assertion about the audit of the debt was not presented or was not given by the legislature. When we appeared before the legislature, we informed the legislature that, hey, we think that it is inclined upon us to ensure that the GAC comes in and conduct an independent audit of the debt.
Okay, that was after they voted to halt the payment of domestic debts until they can be convinced that
So
these debts are reasonable.
so we inform them that it is proper that there becomes an audit of the debt, so that we give ourselves an appreciable understanding that an independent auditor has reviewed these instruments and realized that these instruments are valid to give go ahead to pay, just to satisfy ourselves. They did debt audit before in I think 2007 or 2006 with KPMG. They came here and did a domestic debt audit before. A foreign firm came in Liberia and did a domestic debt audit before. And against that backdrop, payments were made. So the auditor used the KPMG report and did a verification in their lines in terms of assessing as to whether the accuracy of those numbers.
So where are we with that particular process?
That audit has been concluded. Reports have been submitted. And as a matter of fact, we have reviewed and sent comments back to the GAC regarding that there's a full listing of what the GAC believes based on the review. And those things include, there are different stages. There are some of those debts that have been, they have gone through the court process. The court has made a decision and there are rulings of the court on those things. So the GAC works along the judiciary. And there are some of those debts that have not entered litigations. You know, there are claims. So the question, the concern here is that the total debt portfolio is far bigger than maybe 2-3 national budgets. Just debt payments. And you know, debt is just one line of an expenditure in the national budget. So it means that, for instance, if the debt number is around 2 billion, our national budget is around 700 million. If you just say you want to divide it by that to just deal with that, then nothing will happen. So we will apportion portion of the debt as a proposal to the legislature, and it is clear that the whole 2 billion debt will not be able to be paid in one budget period or maybe 5 budget periods from now. So there will be pro rata distribution.
You know, every time we speak about the state of the economy, especially when we're talking about the strength of the economy, what comes to many minds is that your employment ratio is supposed to be something appreciative or appreciable. Government has created jobs. Many people are working. We have investments in the country. We have factories that people can go to and work and earn money. How come every time you from the Ministry of Finance speak, you always admitting that you do not have the capacity to track employment, to know how many persons you've employed over the year, maybe over the space of January to this time, the fiscal space?
I don't think we have categorically said we do not have the capacity. No, that's never been our comment.
Yeah, but I repeatedly said
we have not
a challenge to track employment.
Yeah, because we have not started to do that. That's two things.
It's almost 6 years.
That's two things, right? There's a difference between having or possessing the capacity to do it and implementing the possession of that capacity.
Do you have the capacity?
We do have the capacity to do it.
Why haven't you done it? Almost 6 years.
That is a concern, and that we admit that we needed to do.
What do you say to the voters now? You're in the communities going to the voters. What do you say? How do you convince them that you have employed or you've created jobs?
It's very simple, Austin. I can tell them that the RIA road that is being constructed today, there are Liberians working on that road. There is job opportunity and there is job creation on the RIA road. I can tell them that B Mountain manufacturing company, B Mountain mining company have employed more than 200 Liberians who are working on the mines in B Mountain. I can tell them that the construction of different road infrastructure in Liberia, including the community road that was constructed in Doe community, including the community road that was constructed in Rehab, including the roads that have been constructed in the southeast, including the road that is being constructed in Bofa County today.
Those are short-term employment.
Of course,
last long. Everything you reference are all short-term.
And that's the reason why we continue to make a number of short-term interventions. And you will see that there has been a distribution of the number of people who are involved or who are direct beneficiary from this road initiative. Yes, there are short-term benefits or short-term initiative.
That in 6 years, you'll be bragging about creating short-term employment opportunities for Liberians.
Yeah.
Liberians are more concerned about permanent employment. But everything you reference in the short-term employment, 3 months contractual agreement, 6 months contractual agreement, all around the place.
Yeah, but the point is, there are two things. There are different ways employments happen.
Great.
If we're taking in the capacity of an employment where it has to be some white collar job or some job,
It doesn't necessarily have to be.
and that's exactly why I'm telling you. So again is the only thing is that we have not been able to sit and track and said, 200 person working on our area between August to December. There are employment opportunities where they have daily. And interestingly, you'll be surprised that those contractor jobs that are happening in 1, 2, 3 months, they make more money sometimes than the permanent jobs you have.
So
I have tested.
That's a private sector.
I have tested.
You
I have
talk
tested.
about and expand the payroll. You employ people. You brought people into the government sector. You employ thousands of Liberians. Don't you also have that capacity to track how many persons were employed in government?
So no, definitely no. We do have the capacity. Who told you we don't have the capacity?
You've not done that.
We done that.
How many persons did you employ from January 2018 to current?
We can tell you clearly that the government payroll is around 65,000 people on the government payroll. I can tell you that.
Where did you meet it?
We met that payroll. Two things. So that's why when I started the conversation, I told you that the government of the Unity Party did not disclose to us the full capacity of the payroll. They made it to appear that the payroll was around 40,000 people. But the rest of the other 15,000 people, they were actually being paid from government revenue, but they were paid through special allowance and other arrangements.
So you could tell by doing an audit of the payroll.
Yes, that's what we did. We reviewed them.
Okay.
We did a self-review assessment of the entire payroll exercise. And as a matter of fact, besides the debt audit that has been conducted by the GSC also conducted an audit of the payroll and a review of the very harmonization process we talk about today.
That's
And
the question.
it will be interesting. Yeah, it will be very interesting to see the outcomes of some of those things. And we as a government, we take responsibility on those. It tells you what happened previously, that about double dipping on the payroll, people using their own that unidentified people. As a matter of fact, I told you in that period I was listed as a ghost. And I was only listed as a ghost because they wanted to know physically whether the Samora Wolokolie that we're talking about as an auditor is the same person who's the Deputy Minister of Finance and he has enrolled. But they know I exist. They know that I'm a real human being. They know that I am the Deputy Minister of Finance for Fiscal Affairs. But because I was not present to do a biometric, the biometric will track you and give you a unique identification by yourself, whoever you are. And it shows you a very clear picture as to whether it gives you an opportunity for the auditor to determine as to whether there's a ghost or not.
What final thing that the
In
government needs to
the-
address is
So-
the issue
so in
about
terms of-
harmonization with the Silver 7?
Yeah, so in terms of the job creation, we definitely have created jobs. What we have not been able to do is to give you a track of the exact number. For instance, people are working on the RI route. This is private sector. They gave this company of the work of the RI route to a private company. The private company goes around and collect a conglomeration of other construction companies to subcontract them, right? They have other Liberians who come around in a particular environment. Do you know how many persons will get out of a daily job if they stop working on the RI road? Do you know how many contractors around in Liberia that are craving to ensure that there are more construction of roads? And the moment you allow road construction, there are two basic binding constraints for our economy, for economic growth and transformation: electricity and roads. The government had made frantic efforts in these two areas. There has been no administration in this country that has focused on road connectivity than our government. And we can prove that. And people say 6 years. You got to take 2 of those 6 years out. COVID is tracked.
Silver 7 harmonization, they're concerned about that.
Yes. So, like I said to you, and we talk about that particular situation, the whole concept of the harmonization has become a misinterpretation in an environment. So he asked, where did you meet the payroll? They said 45,000. You know why it was 45,000? It was actually more than that, because they only reported what the payroll number was. Those people who were on special allowance, they didn't have personnel action notice. They were not tracked as civil servants. What the payroll, the harmonization did was to bring together, to collapse the payroll into a single pay and organize a pay structure. Even with the order of the GSC, there has been issues with the entire process, which we correct. We are correcting, as a matter of fact. So as we move on, that's why when I said, yeah, the harmonization is still going on, this is it. So we have to look into the GSC report. The report of the GSC is public. Maybe media people can look into that report and ask questions. Mr. Minister, why is it that you say you harmonize the payroll and you realize there are people who goes on the payroll? What actions have you taken to that? For us to even open up our entire harmonization process to scrutiny, it means that we're serious about the conversations about these things.
Aside beyond the payroll, there are civil servants who still make $88. We have cases from the DA, for example, where the officers come in, they send them messages. I could go ahead
and I can tell you, I can tell you categorically, Austin, there is no civil servant who makes anything below $150. Now, if that message was sent to you, it was sent to you after the President's State of the Nation address. Anything after that time, that situation has been corrected, and there is no civil servant in the Republic of Liberia today that makes anything less than 150 United States dollars.
I think we are. Mr. Minister, before we open the line.
So before you open the line, I'd like to address a concern. I listen to you very attentively this morning. When you talk about investment, trying to disabuse the minds of Liberians about investment.
Those are some of the things we'll be having you on tomorrow. As well as a matter of fact, you know that you have two hours on the OK conversation.
We prepare to go because you usually push show to advertise.
And I say we can use our own advertising.
We put some money and we prepare to go to all the radio stations this week. I'm committing time 2 hours each day to go to all the radio stations this week and talk to make those cases. So I'm available. I'm available this week.
Okay.
But let me just say something about the whole question about investments. Before 2018, there were only one cement factory in this country. That was Semenco. Under George Weah and the CDC leadership, we have attracted 3 additional cement factories in the country. That's an investment. No people, 3. People don't know.
And I will list number to 4.
Yes, the number now comes to 4.
What are they?
Star Cement, Futa Cement, and Capital Link Cement. These are the 3 additional cement companies that have come to.
Are they already in?
They are already in operations as we speak.
Okay.
The people buying Futa Cement, producing or importing and importing. They are producing, and most of the cement factories in this town, they are producing and importing.
Okay.
Because the capacity, people building, and doing a lot of.
I'm concerned about Capital Link.
Yes.
Capital Link?
Yes, it's Capital Link Cement.
Okay.
So I list them again. Star Cement, Futa Cement, and Capital Link Cement. Today in Liberia, and this goes with us saying that the coming in of these different investment is a boost for job opportunity, because part of the requirement is that we'll ask you how many Liberians you're going to put in job.
Yeah, sure.
That's why the criteria we even give you to give you that kind of instance. So that's job. So you see, Julius, we have the ability to do it. We just need to put in the mechanism now that we'll have to track that thing to ensure that, hey, okay, these people come here today. So first of all, you got to go against what they promise to give in terms of job creation and what has been actualized. Say they can come today and say we'll give 1 million jobs. But after 2 years of operation, you got to go check as well. They actually created a 1 million job. That's something we need to do.
Okay.
So we need to do that. And also, you need to understand today that there was never a rubber factory in the country. Today, Liberia has the first rubber factory that is under construction. You know it.
Yeah, jetty rubber.
It's clear. So we're making pronouncements here to you about development activities that are happening, whether it is wood, whether it is electricity, whether it is the presence of investment
But besides
in the country, it is clear.
Investment doesn't have to be international people coming in. How have you been able to track also all the different local investments, whether it's in tourism, is in the hospitality sector, and all these kinds of? There seems to have been a whole lot going on, but sometimes people think an investment has to be what come in and go do rubber or go to.
You have to help us to explain this.
It is not about you should be telling us that you'll be able to track through your business registry and all that.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I'm giving you another one again. Today, we have the first medicine pharmaceutical manufacturing company built in Liberia. It was commissioned in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. It's empirical. It's no joke. It's not something that we're fabricating. It's there. It exists. You can go to the structure, you see it. Maybe some of the media institutions have even benefited from communication services to those places. That job creation as well. Yeah, we'll end on this one. Today, we have the first commercial poultry built and operational in Monie County.
You started full operations?
Full operations. So there are a number of them. We have a whole list, but I just wanted to introduce this so that we're aware of what the situation is.
Yeah, sure.
When people come and say, since the administration of President, we are now more investments. Well, how come? How can you be that disingenuous to yourself? When some of those people who are talking these things have sent letter of application to these particular investment companies that are existing in the country, and we know them, we have the letters.
How did you get it?
Follow-ups or leak on these. The letters were leaked.
Okay, so we're about to open the lines, but before then, Mr. Minister, I want to answer this question, please.
Yes, sir.
There's one question.
Yes, sir.
The goal of the PAPD, Mr. Minister, is basically about reducing poverty, right? Now, considering all the measures you've taken in the economy, have you achieved the reduction of poverty?
Yes, we have. We may not have achieved it at the level at which the PAPD ambitiously projected it.
Okay.
But we have done some reasonable reduction in poverty. And I'll tell you an example. Today, and these things are very linked. When you talk about the economy, you talk about agriculture, you talk about health, you talk about education, you talk about electricity, and all of those things. They all boil down to the economy. If today civil servants are not taking pay on time, it's going to affect inflation. It's going to affect economic growth. When these things start to happen, they become an improvement in economic growth. We left from zero, negative. Our growth rate was in negative. We are claiming 3 and projected to go at 4%, as a matter of fact, and later to project and go more. We started inflation around 30%. Double digit. Today, we have an inflation around 7%. These things were not magical. When we predicted that we would not have spent 5 months in power to pay civil servants salaries, they predicted that we were not even being able to deal with the salaries of civil servants. Yes, we were visited with a number of demonstrations from civil servants. We mustered the courage. We braved the storm. And we energized ourselves. We recollected our minds, and we were able to put our minds to work as a strong technical economic management team. And today, we have improved reforms across the country. Today, we can comfortably tell you that you're having conversation, at least today, you're having conversation about electricity. To even have conversation about electricity in the country, it shows a big improvement. Because yesterday, we were not talking about, I see people calling all around, talking to Mr. Captan. Oh, Mr. Captan, there is no electricity in my area. They are admitting that there is a stringent affordability of electricity product in an environment. Just for the initiation of the conversation alone, it tells you that there has been progress made in effect there. Today, I can tell you, I'm not going to go into all those technical things that Mr. Captan has gone into in terms of the electricity. He has explained so well. I'm not going to talk too much about that. The only thing I can tell you today, electricity is better here than yesterday. It is more available in Liberia today than it was yesterday. It has been widely distributed in Liberia than yesterday. Also, it is affordable. The price, if I put $20 in my meter, it takes me longer today than it would have taken me years ago. I told him about doing the time. So there's whole conversation about the economy
and lifting people out of poverty. But it seems to be contradictory to what the vice president says, that is, you were there and told Subway and others that they may have achieved even more than what the PAPD envisaged, and you are saying you underachieved from what you envisaged.
So you got to put it in context. I did not get that part of what you're saying about what the vice president.
They answered the very question about poverty. So lift people out of poverty and said, you might have achieved more.
So the development plan is for a period, right? And you track your development or you track your performances also based on a period. It's for a longer one. Sometimes the development plan is for 5 years or 6 years, or a vision like the other people have vision 2024. We're in 2024 now. 2023 now, we're going to 2024. That 2024, the top of Weber, we're getting closer there. Somebody can talk about vision 2030. We're going to 2030. We'll reach there. The point is, we can have all the long visions in the effect there. How do we ensure we harness and actualize those visions in a way that it becomes demonstrative evidence of the existence of an ambition?
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay, so we can go to the lines now, Mr. Minister. I'm sure Tom has called over for
it's already
good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Quickly, I don't know where you calling from. Yes, go right ahead. Go right ahead. It seems this guy is not ready. Let me take this to the caller. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Samora.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Samora. It's good to be on the line. I'm Emmanuel M. Topa Jr. Let me say good morning to the Honorable Minister and to the rest of the panelists there. Well, my question has to do with, Julius. When Julius said, the government steal money from donors. And Julius, you are aware that those donors, those international partners, when they give money,
they respond to the next effort responding to
so, if they give me the money, you didn't use it for the purpose, but you use it for something that is pressing, that is a pressing concern to you. Doesn't mean the government stole the money. No, absolutely the government didn't steal the money.
Okay.
So we appreciate the Deputy Minister and the rest of the financial team from the Ministry of Finance. They have done excellently well, and this government has done extremely well overall. The current vice president yesterday stated that all this opportunity, the road bill, the LSA, the LEC that have been given to all of the people, those people are doing business like those communities. People know you should see it along the roadside, but because of the money road the president built into a community, the people in those communities get their labor, their peanuts, and other commercial things that is benefiting them. That's why in other communities where the government has no role, people are benefiting. The woman in Kima, she said, for the state was born, I've never seen LEC. And because of the LEC, the government has brought in this part of the country. I am sharing my pleasure. Even in the night, I share my pleasure. But these are employment opportunities.
Okay. You made your point already. Let me take this other caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Darara, and good morning to our big brother in the studio, DJ Wolokolie. My name is David Galagowisha, and I enjoyed this conversation from the headquarters of the CDC on the Bokube Avenue to community. Let me say thank you very much for the liberation and professional expertise and defense. This financial team that we have currently is one of the best financial teams in the history of our country and in the sub-Saharan region. What we have said is in a blacker energy team, with all of the millions of dollars that were coming to the country as a former judge, they have redeemed the financial team at the time to not use their financial expertise to ensure that vaccines are well paid, to ensure that the University of Liberia students were given tuition waiver. Today, the financial team of this particular country, in our time, financial and tuition waiver have been given to the University of Liberia, and last year have been paid. That tells you that this financial team is one of the best financial teams in the history of our country.
Okay, you made your point already. Let me take this caller. Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
This is Zero Whiskey. Let me say thank you to one of the journalists in studio, Austin, for making the deputy minister to confess. It's so disheartening to hear from a minister to tell the Liberian people that if you have a short-term job, you got more money than a long-term job. It means that this minister is playing double stand-up with this government. These are the people who bring embarrassment to this government. Long-term job and short-term job, which one is reliable? You are telling Liberian. You went further to even tell her that you don't even have a track record of those workers for short terms. Why are you doing that? It's embarrassing. So this minister we gotta quickly examine him. Again with this government. Thank you very much.
Can you stay on the line?
Hello?
Can you stay on the line?
Hello? Yes, the minister wants to react.
I want to engage you. Can we do that? I didn't.
I'm listening to you, Mr. Woloko.
Yeah, I didn't. Wolokolie, sorry. I didn't say that short-term jobs are more reliable than long-term jobs. That's not what I said.
More money.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. I said. So give me a chance. Let me explain. So don't interpret what I said.
Okay.
So you gotta first of all you gotta state factually what I said. I said a short-term job or a contractual job pays you more than an employment job will pay you on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Fine. So that doesn't speak to the reliability. It's short-term. So that's why I said the government continues to make interventions, short-term interventions to have more of these kinds of work environments. So imagine somebody takes pay, make $10, for instance, on a daily basis, daily hire. He makes $10. Some instances he give $20 on a daily basis. Multiply $20 US by 28 days.
Can I ask you a question?
No, multiply it first. Tell me the amount.
Let me ask you a question first.
Go ahead.
How truthful you say that you are not using one set of people too?
No, that's what I'm saying. I just said to you.
I'm saying if you believe in short-term job, how truthful you say that you are not using one set of people?
No, but I didn't say. But listen, so Mr. Caller, sometimes we gotta, erase some of these misconceptions you gave. You can't interpret my statement in my person. No, you're not saying that. The first thing about it, you misinterpreted what I said.
You are using one set of people too.
So I'm committing to you. That the works of the short-term employment are rotational.
Okay, let's take another caller.
So you agree that you didn't interpret my statement properly.
Good morning.
You misinformed the public.
Yes, good morning.
So as the caller score and try to misinform, we'll tell them to do them.
Okay.
National issues in context of the last administration performance in 6 years. I think this is extremely well and catalog achievements representing in every sector. You see the massive infrastructure development, and you also talk about response and very strong fiscal policy on the administration. These are things that we get really elected to the
Okay.
So people start making that the minister on things of short-term and long-term job. Here is the quarter budget multiply. The total transfer is 550.
Okay. You made a point. Let me take this caller. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Quickly.
Yes, I'm Pastor Eric Favor Roberts, and I'm calling from my resident Dubaro Junction. Sir, my attention has been drawn to the minister session talking about the issue of the poverty reduction, that there have been some progress, and they have time frame and all of that. Let's say for once, let us be clear on the record. This country, there's nothing under the president about poverty reduction that have made any strive. We voted for this president, and the issue of poverty is manifesting in our lives. It's clear. I think public officials should be honest for once, that when you promise something in this country and you fail to do what you have promised, to say, I'm sorry, we expected it this way or that way, but it didn't materialize. But for the honorable minister to tell the public that they have achieved this and they have a time frame, I think it's very disingenuous to us Nigerian people. It's unfair, and we are not going to sit here and allow this, to go out there in the public. We need apologies from this government.
Okay, you made your point already. Let me take this call. We're taking 3 more calls and we'll wrap it up. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, let's hear from you quickly. Your name?
My name is Mark, and I'm calling from Johnsonville. Okay, I don't come there, the Honorable Minister in studio. Actually, my attention has been in June when it comes to the harmonization, and he has spoken only brilliantly. But the issue is, he's going to have a correction. But I'll let him make some effort when it comes to the upgrading of our business system. Thank you.
Okay, let me take this other caller. Good morning.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm going to tell you again. To tell you, flip on the other room.
Okay, let me take this last one. Good morning.
A blessing. Good morning, Mr. Saba George, and to our minister in studio. Well, the minister couldn't have said it any better. But the point I want to stress, though it's better late than never, the zero communication arms of all of government agencies need to be empowered so that the people will get the information out there, which of course is visible that we will be getting the second term, and that need to actually be done during the second term. Thank you so very much for the information provided, Honorable Minister Wolokolie.
Okay, many thanks. So let's go back to the minister to respond to some of those concerns. We take leave of him. Yes, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think I deal with the issue of the gentleman regarding the issue of short-term jobs versus long-term liability. He's misinterpreted me. And of course, he admitted to his misinterpretations. And sometimes when some controversies happen like that, we get the quarter on the line, deal with the issue right there, and move ahead. And I think that's how we should move ahead in some respect. So the other quarter talk about that the government should apologize for, in his opinion, poverty hasn't been met. I'll tell you this, I don't know him, but I can tell him clearly that for this government, it is pro-poor, it's for the poor. If the road of RIA today is constructed, whether he rode on a roof or back, or he rode on a roof for limousine, or he rode on a roof for keke, the availability of the road in terms of its construction, whether to perfection or not, we intend to strive for perfection, will reduce maintenance on the vehicle that is being used on our road. It will reduce the dust that perhaps we have given you cool when you got on that road. This government has focused on turning dust into asphalt. Massive road pavements all across the country. The need for the development of road construction in our country is enormous. And the government has an humongous task to deal with this particular situation. There are demands of more than 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers of road across the country. In 176 years, I'm not saying 196, this government has strived and made serious efforts in ensuring that, can we get laughing for? When the country, your mind, it's saying like, you remember how many years the country is, and you say you only can from official. Anyway, this government, we are going to politics. We are to politicize this more.
The time is finishing. I think the time for I get additional people give you.
You can get additional time?
No, the time is possible. Then I give you additional 8 to 10 series almost.
We can tell our minutes.
No, it's okay. I was retired. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead.
The development issues are so many. And they're so challenging.
Get time tomorrow. We'll do them.
And they're so herculent that our desire to express these things are unwavering. Somebody will ask the question, why is it you people have not been talking? We haven't been talking because we've been working. We wanted to work to reach at this point and lay out the successes. Yes, we may not have been done so well to make sure that the information has gone up in the way that it should or it should have. But now we're at a point where the National Elections Commission has declared campaign. Me, as a Liberian, even though appointed by the President of the Republic of Liberia, even with the existence of the Code of Conduct, I believe that I will canvass and I should. Because I am a Liberian and it is the time that I can talk. because working, we've been very busy making sure that we have all these. That these conversations are happening all across the country. Today, I'm so inspired. I'm hearing citizens across the country calling and saying we need ELBC. Our brothers from Bushwa Island have probably had some nights spent in the Peaceville Belt, Kevin always in Peaceville, in the Peaceville Belt, and see how electricity is available. And I think he needs, and he deserves it, such ambience of electricity in the Bushwa Island area. Yesterday, this conversation was not happening. ELBC, the presence of ELBC in different environments has put, it's not a good thing, but it's better, put some people out of business. I remember way back, we used to do community power, rationing of community power. That may pay a generator on, you pay some money, you pay for arm. Today, there has been a complete eradication of community powers in certain communities. So they will now move businesses now to that area. We're moving towards where ELBC will become the real cash cow, where ELBC will begin to fund the national budget. We have carried on our capital asset pricing model, a mixture of financial engineering and the sample of the ELBC. We'll move to water and sewer in the same direction. Make them operational. Invest resources into them such that the tomorrow will be better than the today.
You have an engagement tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, so
Keeps doing, and I will end on this note. Somebody asked about the companies, the cement companies. We listed those cement companies. They asked for the locations.
Yeah.
We will provide the locations of the cement companies.
Later
And it is
on?
evidence. Yeah, later. I can't give you the exact location, but you can always do facts finding to see as to whether what we said is true or not.
Okay.
In the effect thereof.
So finally,
This president is the man of the hour. Do not waste that time to prolong this thing. These elections are about them versus us. It's about demonstrating and showing their records. Let them show their records. Our records shown. Our records will be displayed. Our records will be emphasized. And thank you, Julius, for the invite on the show tomorrow. We will not stop expounding on the development goods that we have continued to do. President Ria is a good man. He has strong intentions for this country. He told you, do not judge me by the eloquence of my speeches, but by the decisions we will make. He made a major decision to construct the 14 military hospital. People doubted that it would have been constructed. Today it is there, and said, why the need for 14 military hospital in Uganda? Some of them got sick with COVID, they got treated in the 14 military hospital. This sort of ungratefulness that is perpetrated amongst the kings and queens of ungratefulness have to stop.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's Deputy Finance Minister Samora Wolokolie. Well, gentlemen, Julius, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
How are Austin?
It's always a pleasure being here.
Thanks for the invite, my brother.
Okay. But just I'll go home for this presentation of the SMS. Join us tomorrow.